Hey y'all, today I'm going to teach you all about how to season and take care of your cast iron skillet. First things first, I want you to figure out what cast iron skillet we're going to take care of today, and let's go ahead and get it out. I also need you to go ahead and get out some kosher salt, a brand new sponge that's never been used before. I'll tell you why. And I want you to make sure that it has a scratchy side. Soft side, scratchy side. So make sure it has a scratchy side. Paper towels. You will also potentially need some hot water. Just from your sink is fine. And I want you to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Oh, and I almost forgot. You need some olive oil. Let's go ahead and get that out. Okay, we've got everything we need. Let's get started. The first thing we want to do is we want to take care of any rust that's already in your cast iron. So a lot of times my cast iron will accidentally get set down in my sink and it'll have rust on the inside here from being left wet, and it'll also end up with rust on the bottom. Now I will just tell you in full transparency, my cast iron has looked a lot worse than this, and it looks great, pretty great today. So we're gonna go ahead and set this on some paper towels just so it doesn't make a mess on your counter, because this does get a little bit messy. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're going to put a pretty generous amount of kosher salt right into our pan. You wanna make sure that your pan is completely dry. I just put a little pile in there. The more rusty it is, the more salt you wanna use. Up to a point, sometimes I just throw it out and start and do a second dump if I need to. What I'm trying to accomplish with this is you can kind of see around the edge. I had made an apple pumpkin crisp in this, and it's kind of a big pan. I was trying a recipe for our farm over at Ozark Farms for our Fall at the Farm on October 7th. Well, I let it sit in here too long, and the moisture from that pumpkin kind of started to rust the edge of my pan. Well, no problem. I'm just gonna take care of that today. So what you want to do is you're going to basically use this kosher salt to scratch that rust off of your cast iron. Let's do it together. So you just grab some of that with your dry sponge, and the reason why you want to use a brand new sponge that's never been used before is because you don't ever want to put soap on your cast iron. Chances are, if you've got a sponge that's been used before, it's going to have some soap on it, and we don't ever want to do that to our cast iron. So brand new sponge, scratchy side down. We're just gonna drag our way through this salt up to where the rust is. And we're just gonna start to scrub. And like a miracle, you're gonna see that rust start to come off. Your salt will start to turn brown. That's okay. I learned this trick from a cowboy. Cowboy hat and everything. For those of y'all who don't know, I do live here on a 600-acre working cattle ranch in the Midwest. We have a campground, we have Airbnbs y'all can come stay at. You can learn more about us at ozarkfarms.org. You just never know what's gonna happen from one day to the next on a working farm. Oh, that's already looking so much better. How's yours doing? Leave a comment and let me know. So if it's not very rusty, it's not gonna take too much scrubbing to get that off. I'm just gonna knock that off, and I keep my sponges in a special place so they don't accidentally get used, and they're just for my cast iron whoopsies. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rinse this out with hot water, and then I'm gonna put this in my preheated oven at 350 degrees for 20 minutes. Rinse out with hot water, put in a 350 degree oven for 20 minutes, and then we're gonna put a little bit of olive oil in it. I'll show you how. Okay, now at this point in time, your kitchen's gonna smell amazing if you're like me, because stuff has run over in your oven and it smells good again. Okay, so what you wanna do is you need to have something real heavy on your counter. I typically use these really heavy towels that I got from Walmart. I really like them. But you don't want to just set your cast iron right on here because this next process is still a little bit messy. So again, I just put some paper towels down and we're going to get our cast iron out of the oven. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to let this sit hot for about 5 minutes and just let it cool off enough so that when we put this oil in here, it doesn't sizzle. Sometimes if I'm in a hurry, I just try to hurry it along. Next thing's next. I typically get 3 little sheets of paper towels. This is just my method. Y'all do what you want. I always tell you that. And I get 3 sheets of paper towels and I fold it into thirds. Okay. Now in this pan, you don't want to drench this thing. You want to just get enough to put a light coating on it. Okay. That's what we're trying to do, is put a light seasoning on this whole thing because you can tell it's looking a little parched. It's looking a little dry. So my cowboy friend says to put a capful. You know, I like to measure heaping on things, so I put a little more than a capful. I should just listen. Where would that get us? All right, so I put about a capful, heaping capful of olive oil in my cast iron. Remember, this is very hot. Do not, under any circumstances, touch this thing with your hands. It's gotta be hot for this whole process to work. So I typically start with the sides first. I'm gonna make sure and get all the grooves, and then I go to the bottom. Get your handles, okay, and the top ridge. And now we're going to flip it over. That gets dirty. He says use a rag. I don't use a rag because I don't want to ruin a rag. So at this point in time, I flip it over. Oh, mowers are here. And I get...
Mom!
What, honey bun?
I tried the skibbity unicorn tool.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
At this point in time, I flip it over. And I get the other side. There's typically enough oil still left on this paper towel that I can get the back side pretty good. Just make sure you get in all the grooves all the way around. Now in the beginning of this, we did not flip this thing over and scrub the bottom because my cast iron did not have any rust on the bottom. If your cast iron does have rust on the bottom, well, you use your kosher salt and you scrub wherever the rust is to get that rust off, okay? Believe me, I've been there. Okay, so that worked good. What I do next is I set this thing on a cookie sheet drying rack. And I just lay it on a cookie drying rack. So I leave it upside down. That way if there's any excess oil in it, it'll run down the sides and out and nothing will pool in there. And that is how you season your cast iron. Now how to take care of cast iron moving forward. Well, after you use it, you don't want to let food sit in it. You want to, the same night you use it, you want to go ahead and get all the food out and wash it with hot water. You can just run hot water in it and use no soap, just some kind of a sponge or something, and it will just clean right out. And then after you get it wet, I just stick it on top of my propane stove for just a few minutes and until it's completely dry, move it off of the hot burner, and it's good to go. Sometimes I'll put just a little bit of olive oil back on it. Not always, just kind of depends on how it looks. If you don't have a propane stovetop, I'd recommend putting it in a 350 oven for a few minutes until it's completely dry. The main point is no soap, only hot water, and it's got to be completely dry, like immediately. You cannot leave water in cast iron for any length of time at all because it'll rust and then we'll find ourselves back here. So anyway, I hope this was helpful to y'all. Cast iron is sure a fun way to cook and I love it. But you do have to know how to take care of it. And so if you liked this and you want to see more about cast iron, just leave a comment and I'll just say cast iron. in the comments, and I will sure say more about it. Love y'all.